Shalom. Before I get started with this lesson, I want to give all honor, praise, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Racha HaKodash. Double honors to my apostles and elders of Great Millstone that taught me this truth and that rule well. And peace and salutation to the elect that's out here labored in all truth and sincerity to USA Shalom. So, Brother Amwan Ariel from the GMA Charlotte camp, coming back with another Lord willing, edifying lesson to feed the elect of the nation of Israel. And pretty much in this lesson, I wanted to speak on, this backwards, lewd, wicked, kingdom, which we know here as America, but in the scriptures is known as Babylon the Great. Okay, and as we know, within this kingdom, it's much wickedness that is being done here in this kingdom, and most of it is being done, all right, to spite Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua and his ways. Okay, now the reason why I want to do this video, because I can already peep that it's going to offend a good number of people, but I seen this title, pretty much going in, and I read the article dealing with this situation, and I thought it would be good for a lesson just to show you how backwards this society really is, man. And when I say it's backwards, it's because when you see how Esau Edom is running this society, and by his standards and ruling, and then compare it, all right, to the standard that Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai had back in the ancient world, this is why we need the Lord to come and change things back to the way that they are, because Esau has confused and messed up the minds of the people to a point to where the earth is in need of a great reset, all right, and not the great reset as we know that he's trying to bring, which is the NWO, but a great reset in terms of just overall societal makeover, because what this man has done, all right, is incentivize lewdness and wickedness, all right, and just straight up rebellion at an all-time high, all right. So, not to ramble, but this came out a few days ago, dealing with this social media influencer that goes by the name of Little Tay. Okay, and for those that's not familiar who this was a little girl that pretty much blew up on social media, due to where some say that she's cultural, what's that word, cultural appropriation. Well, pretty much what it was is she was trying to act like Jake, all right. I don't personally don't see her as being an Israelite, but we understand the influence that our people have had on the world. So you have a lot of heathen that try to play the part like they're Jake, but nonetheless, she got famous for pretty much trying to act like how Jake does, which she was on Instagram and different apps, flexing money, talking shit, whatnot, and essentially that made her famous to where she has a known name in this world, all right. Now, when she first came on the scene, she was a very young girl, all right, but just within the last few days, okay, she recently announced that she was making OnlyFans because she was turning 18, and so they had this big uproar because she understood that she was about to blow up, because she know that it was millions of men that was waiting for her to turn 18 so they can look at her OF content, all right. So before I really get into this, I wanted to grab some scriptures, all right. So first, let's grab this here in Habakkuk chapter 1 and verse 4. It says, "Therefore the law is slack, and judgment doeth never go forth. For the wicked doeth compass about the righteous, therefore wrong judgment proceedeth." Okay? So it says, therefore the law is slack, because we understand that Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua's ways are not upheld in this kingdom, man. Okay, Esau Edom has curated this society to go against every one of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shah's law, statutes, and commandments. All right, and so as it says, judgment doeth never go forth because righteous judgment is absent in this world. All right, it says for wicked. It says for the wicked doeth compass about the righteous, therefore wrong judgment proceedeth. Okay, so it says that the wicked compass around about the righteous, therefore wrong judgment proceedeth. So the righteous is downtrodden in this society. Now, the reason why this came to mind was because when we go into topics like this, all right, you have to take your mind out of this place, man. Okay, when you go into the ancient way of thinking, things were much harsher, all right, and if you're thinking on how we used to do things with an American mindset today, it's gonna conflict each other, man. All right. Now I'm saying all this because we already know how this situation is when you hear Jake get how how Jake gets when we start talking about how women were dealt with back in the ancient world concerning marriage and things like that. All right, because women when they were married back then married at a very early age compared to what we know today as the age of consent. All right, most states here in America we know that to be 18. Some states is 16. All right, but according to the Bible, we understand that a woman is considered a woman, or a girl is considered a woman. All right, when her cycle begins, man, when she gets her period, according to the scriptures, that's when she gets her cycle, because at that point, that's when she's able to conceive and bear children. All right, so this society has completely changed the minds of the people to where when topics like this are brought out, it becomes a whole emotional roller coaster, and sensationalized or sensationalism because this place has mind fucked the people thanks to Esau Edom and his changing things around. All right. So when we talk about things like this, like I said, you have to have the mind of what the scriptures are actually talking about. You can't be emotional. All right. So going back into this topic, man. Okay. So as it reads here, Little Tay claims she made $1 million within hours after launching her OnlyFans account. All right. So it says Little Tay is best known as the youngest flexer on the of the century. She turned 18 on July 29th, but achieved fame in 2017 at 11. After announcing the launch of her OnlyFans account on Saturday, August 2nd, viral social media star Little Tay claims her new account has already amassed over $1 million within 3 hours after she opened it for subscriptions. She previously shared with her 2.3 million followers that the content was made moments after she turned 18 years old on July 29th. Right. So you had these men that were waiting for her to turn 18 so that they could subscribe to her OF account so that they can possibly look at explicit material of her. All right, as we know, OF was one of the main avenues that you saw a lot of women turning towards, especially during the scandemic. All right, to make money, which all it is just a form of digital prostitution. Okay, so continuing on, it says on Sunday, August 3rd, Little Tay shared a clip on social media claiming to have already made $1 million in mere hours, proving the haters wrong. We just broke the link record with the youngest link of the century. Little Tay began in the clip. $1 million in a couple hours. I'm still the youngest one doing it. For all the grown ass haters who've been hating since I was 9 years old, look at me now. And this is just adding to the sentiment of why this kingdom, all right, pretty much why Esau's kingdom needs to be destroyed, because he has spawned a lot of narcissistic, self worshiping demons. Okay, because this is really nothing more than clout. That clout chasing is why this whole thing is even being talked about. Okay, this little girl got famous for clout chasing, but now that she has become an adult, according to Esau standards, now she's able to pretty much really go forward and put herself out there, man. Okay, she has no longer needed uh, uh, guardianship, so to say. All right, so now that she's 18, her parents no longer really have control over her. So this is just showing you that we're at the end. All right, so I just want to grab this real quick. This is Second Timothy, chapter 3, verse 1. This know also that in the last days perilous times shall come. For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, without natural affection, truce breakers, false accusers, incontinent, fierce despisers of those that are good, traitors, heady, high minded, lovers of pleasures, more than lovers of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua. Because at the end of the day, these are all, the traits that Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua warned us that people will be inhibiting in the end days, man. And clearly we see this being done at an all-time high, which is just showing you that we are in the last days, man. That we can't see society lasting too much longer, because these are all tenets of a decadent society. All right. So going back, it says the clip will also be accompanied with an alleged screenshot of Little Tay's OnlyFans profit. The screenshot will show her total earnings so far of $1,024. Salaki reading. I'm reading this math. It's a little off of me. So you see it. She made over $1,000,000. That's the point. So it says the total earnings would be based on subscriptions, tips, and messages. The screenshot will be tweeted with the following: "Not bad for 3 hours. We broke the fuck out of the OnlyFans record." Now, it was controversy dealing with this whole topic, um, going back about a couple years ago when you had that chick, what's her name, Bad Baby or whatever. The whether she's a Jake, whatever, I don't really know or care, but some might remember her from the Dr. Phil show. She was the Catch Me Outside girl or whatever. But she did the same thing. All right, she created a OnlyFans account when she turned 18, and pretty much people, as soon as she posted the link, made her millions of dollars as well. Okay, so that being said, I'll read this last part before I continue on. It says another user compared the launch's success to when Bad Baby also launched an OF account at 18 at a couple years ago. Reminds me of when Bad Baby turned 18, the fan tweeted. Others believe the earnings as well, adding to the comments. An Instagram user commented on Live Bites, "I believe it, just like Bad Baby, especially when the main consumer is most likely men." Now, the point of why I wanted to do this video was to talk about this point, okay? Because in this society, okay, men are demonized, you know, for having, preference, because we understand that, the dynamic of men and women is completely skewed here, thanks to the psychological programming that Esau has done, especially on the minds of women. All right, so when the talking point comes up about how men prefer younger women, this is just proof to show you that men do prefer younger women, but we take this with a grain of salt, because like I said, this situation and all situations like this are wicked. All right, because number one, this is prostitution. All right, we don't condone that, and the scriptures don't condone that, man. All right, matter of fact, we can get the law on that real quick. you know um that's not it. Salakia. I mean, you could use this one, but it's another one I'm thinking about. Leviticus 19:29. Do not prostitute thy daughter to cause her to be a whore, lest the land fall to whoredom, and the land become full of wickedness. Now, this scripture we can apply this because this is one of the main reasons why Esau Edom promotes the agenda towards the Israelite women that we see with the whole thing dealing with, Beyonce, Cardi B, Nicki Minaj, Meg Thee Stallion, Glorilla, and the list goes on. Sexy Red and these different women that promote this whore agenda. All right, for the women, and then it says the sodomite for the men, but dealing with the women. This is why Esau pushes this because he understands the long term destruction that befalls a nation if you allow the women to become whores and prostitutes, man. Okay, and so with the whole boom of OF, who if you know the backing of where OnlyFans come from, all right, it is owned by a small hat. Okay, so let's not forget that. Okay, because when we look at that, all right, just real quick. All right, it says OnlyFans is owned by Leonid Radvinsky, a Ukrainian American businessman. But when you do the research, this man is a small hat. All right, he's a Jewish. All right, he's an Amalekite man. All right, and as we know, Amalek owns the you know the the prime business, corn business, whatever you want to call it. All right, so this is just showing you that this is all orchestrated by the elites to destroy, all right, the people, but mainly destroy the Israelites. So once again, just getting this real quick. Deuteronomy 23:17. There shall be no whore of the daughters of Israel, nor a sodomite of the sons of Israel. Okay, now these are laws that apply to our people, but really, these other nations, they have similar beliefs because they get a lot of their customs from Israel, man. All right, this is why when you see over there in the Middle East, they mirror a lot of similarities according to our customs because they understand, order. All right, but over here in the West, man, these things are not heavily, looked upon because we live in what they call the modern age, man. All right, and when you look at, I always bring this out dealing with that definition of modern. All right, so this is dictionary, Oxford English Dictionary.com dealing with the word modern. All right, now we're gonna go to definition 2. It says of or relating to the present and recent times as opposed to the remote past. So the point being, it says as opposed to the remote past. Now, you look up this word remote. I'm remote. It's like it opposed. It says opposed. It means eager to prevent or put an end to, disapproving or disagreeing with. So what Esau Edom has done is pretty much created a society to where they they say that this new way of living, his way of living, all right, is better than the way that the Most High set up. Okay, but when you read the scriptures tell us this here in Jeremiah 6:16. Well, actually, let me get Job first. Just Job 8:8, and I'm gonna go back to that. It says, "For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age, and prepare thyself to the search of their fathers." So, when you come into this truth, okay, a part of you, all right, learning your who you are as being a Hebrew Israelite, is to look up, okay, what our customs are, man. All right, like you have a great book as a point of reference that we use called, Biblical Matters and Customs. All right, and they go into, and break down a lot of our old ancient customs and why we did those certain things. Now, grabbing Jeremiah 6:16, It says, "Thus saith the Lord, stand ye in the ways and see, and ask for the old paths, where is the good way, and walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your souls." But they said, "We will not walk therein," because when it comes down to society in today's time, the people don't want to hear about how we used to do things, because now the modern way is what's in. All right, it's what's convenient. All right, it's what allows people to live in their ultimate comfort. But according to what the scriptures say, how we're supposed to live, okay, we're supposed to live after these ways that Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shah set up. Grabbing this in the NLT, it says, "This is what the Lord says: Stop at the crossroads and look around. Ask for the old godly way and walk in it. Travel its paths, and you will find rest for your souls." But you reply, "No, that's not the road that we want." All right. So it's showing you that the people of the world, they don't care about what the Bible says, man. Because as it says, "Ask for the old godly way and walk in it." And when you understand why Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai had the ancient ways set up, all right, they were for reasons that worked. All right, everything that the Lord set up like when you read in Genesis, the first chapter, it was good, which means it was perfect. It made sense. Today's time doesn't make sense, man. Which is why when you see a lot of this stuff happening, it's a bunch of questionable acts that lead to disastrous results, man. Okay. AMP, "Thus saith the Lord, stand by the roads and look, ask for the ancient paths, where the good way is, then walk in it." The ancient ways were the good ways, man. All right, they were the ways that work, and you will find rest for your souls. But they said, "We will not walk in it." Right. So, looking into that, we understand that. All right. So this is from Chat GPT. It says, How was it beneficial to the ancient biblical times, and in certain Eastern cultures today, was arranged marriages practice, and why is it demonized over the West?" Because when you look at how women were dealt with back in the ancient world, starting from young girls going into womanhood. All right, women weren't moving like how we see in today's time. All right, these where you see women choosing boyfriends and all that. There was no such thing as a boyfriend in the ancient world, man. All right, women were married off young, because like I said, it was for the benefit of her as well as families. Because what you see and know as marriage today is not real marriage. Okay. Okay, because we understand that marriage, according to the Bible, all right, they were businesses, because what a marriage did was join families together. All right, so women were married off. All right, whether they had interest in the man or not, because there was a purpose to be done, and eventually that woman would grow to love that man. But at the end of the day, that wasn't the purpose of marriage. It wasn't based on love. It was business. All right. So, like I said, you bring that up today, and a lot of these modern women have a problem with that, because they don't understand the mind of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. But ultimately, what it comes down to is they don't have wisdom. Because if they had wisdom, they will understand, the purpose behind this, situation dealing with marriage and all that, and all this as I'm going into. All right. So, just reading just key points that came out of this, because I thought this was interesting. It says, "Arranged marriages, both in ancient biblical times and in certain Eastern cultures today, were not only common, but also often seen as a sign of wisdom, protection, and social stability. The negative view many in the West hold towards them today has more to do with cultural shifts than with the institution itself. Let's break this down into biblical historical benefits, current Eastern perspectives, and reasons for Western demonization." So first point, it says biblical and ancient benefits of arranged marriages. It says in the Bible and the surrounding ancient cultures, because when you still have arranged marriages being done today over in the East, okay, in certain countries. I know it's dealing with those Ishmaelite and I believe some Elamite and Hamitic cultures still practice arranged marriages to this day. All right. So as it says, marriage was rarely about romance first. It was about family covenant, survival, and legacy, right? Because the whole concept of what romance goes back to is Rome. All right, it's a fantasy, man. Okay, that's something that has been indoctrinated in women today due to things like Disney, the whole princess fantasy and all that other stuff. But what it truly is about is joining the family, all right, for the continuance of legacy and all these different things. So getting into that, it says family covenant and honor. Genesis 24, Abraham arranged Isaac's marriage to Rebekah through his servant, emphasizing shared faith, values, and heritage because it was, a major between, marriage. Well, it was major for marriage to be between, the same nations because we believed in the same gods, man. All right, we followed the same, customs. All right, and we didn't want to be polluted, by the different ways of the heathen, which is why when you look in the ancient world, you know, it was, forbidden to marry heathen. Now, when you really get into that, which I'm not gonna get too deep into it, it was really, for certain Hamitic tribes, that we were living amongst, that we were forbidden to marry. But when it comes down to it, we can deal with heathen women as concubines, but not as marriage. All right, and all a concubine is a lesser wife, which means that she didn't receive the same level of benefits that Israelite wife will receive, man. All right, she wasn't a sex slave, but the point being that you can deal with other heathen. All right, it says marriage was a binding agreement between families, not just two individuals. It preserved tribal identity, property rights, and inheritance. Deuteronomy 7 3 through 4 warns against marrying outside the faith because it could lead to idolatry, as I just said. So let's grab that. All right, Deuteronomy 7 and 3. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou marry. It's like it not, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son, for they will turn away thy son from following me, and they may serve other gods. So will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you, and destroy thee suddenly. Okay, so like I said, this mainly being dealing with the different the Hamitic tribes that we were, warring against. Because reading this at the beginning of the chapter for context, Deuteronomy 7 and 1, when the Lord thy power shall bring thee into the land whither thou goest to possess it, and has cast out many nations before thee, the Hittites, and the Girgashites, and the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than thou. And when the Lord thy power shall deliver them before thee, thou shalt smite them and utterly destroy them. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor show mercy unto them. Neither shalt thou make marriages with them. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son, nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son, for they will turn away thy son from following me, that they may serve other gods. So I will so will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you and destroy thee suddenly. So, not to go too deep into this topic, but this is why at the end of the day we were told not to marry these specific tribes, or it's like a heathen tribes. But if you read the scriptures, you understand you know that happened. We dealt with heathen, okay, because there's nothing wrong with an Israelite man. All right, let's specify that an Israelite man can deal with a heathen woman because, as we know, the seed, according to Numbers 1 and 18, belongs to the man. So if an Israelite man deals with a heathen woman and impregnates her, all right, that child that comes out of that woman is still an Israelite. But if an Israelite woman deals with a heathen man, okay, she's birthing a heathen. Okay, that's why at the end of the day, you Israelite women, you shouldn't be dealing with no heathen. Okay, but we're in America, so it is what it is. But at the end of the day, we can deal with the heathen. So I just wanted to bring that point out because a lot of Israelites have a problem with this because they'll say that this is the reason why we should only be dating in house. Now certain brothers have that preference, that's them, but in the kingdom we're gonna have heathen concubines, man. So it is what it is. So if you want to deal with it with an Edomite, Elamite, Ishmaelite, Moabite, whatever, that's your preference, man. But the point being is we're not to make them on the same level as wives as an Israelite woman, because she has the potential to carry you off into idolatry. As we see, a lot of Jake marry these women, excuse me, and they end up worshiping their gods, man. All right, but getting back to the point, just saying all that for edification's sake, you know, economic and social stability. Families knew each other's economic standing, land ownership, and reputation. Marriage often merged resources, strengthened political alliances, and ensured children were born into stable environments. Women were more protected under a chosen arrangement since the man's family was socially accountable for her well being, because the parents, all right, specifically the dad, okay, of both families, okay, they had a say so in picking who their children was going to be wedding to, man. you know the father would marry his daughter off to another well-known Israelite family of good reputation, all right. And like I said, they will have a beneficial relationship that stemmed from that marriage to make it made sense, man. you know but that being the case in today's time, people look at arranged marriages as wicked, you know because they look at that as going against the will of the woman, which we'll get into in a little bit. All right, but just understanding these things made sense, because if you look at today's time, all right, women today have terrible judgment. Okay, women cannot pick a man. All right, which is why you see a plethora of failed relationships, man, because women don't choose off of as it says right here, guidance of elders. It says elders use wisdom, discernment, and community knowledge to ensure a good match. In agrarian societies, personal choice could be risky. Marrying without family approval could leave someone without resources or protection, because the in the marriage, it was more than what you see being given today. All right, today you have different things like the prenups, uh, um, like the spousal agreements and all that bullshit. I'm not really too familiar with all that, but I do know, when with the marriage, it came with substance. All right, that woman, okay, would gain the substance of her husband. So if that man were to die before the woman, that woman will be left with substance from her husband that she could pass on to children if they had them. All right, specifically the sons. Okay, but like I said, in today's society, those things are not cared about. All right, women choose a man based off superficial conditions such as looks and things that the man has. Okay, but not it's not beneficial stuff. All right, it's how much money this dude got, how much clout he got, which shows you that women lack judgment. All right, so grabbing this real quick. Job 39:17, because Yahweh Shem Shai has deprived her of wisdom, neither have he imparted to her understanding. All right, and this is why a lot of women get up in arms about when we speak about this is why arranged marriages should be, practiced, because this would save a lot of bad relationships and heartbreak because, like I said, if a woman was married off by her father, okay, she would be set up in a position, all right, to win. But in today's society, due to women's liberation, they were given the freedom to choose themselves, and we know how big of a failure that has become. Just look at the divorce rate, man. All right. But continuing on, it says how it's still beneficial in certain Eastern cultures today. Many Eastern societies, or modern Eastern societies, India, parts of the Middle East, Africa, East Asia, still use arranged marriages with adjustments for modern life. And it goes into, the different aspects: low divorce rate, value compatibility, emotional bond grows over time. All right, which is the point I made earlier. Okay, it says in many cases, love is cultivated after the wedding rather than being the only reason for marriage. This can deeper resilience since the relationship is rooted in commitment first, emotion second, because the children understand the purpose behind the marriage. Because it's not just a, all right, my son likes your daughter, so we're gonna get them together. No, it's because your family, stems to benefit. Both families stem to benefit from this marriage. That the father of the one child, all right, has something that that is worth of trade to the other family, and vice versa, and they're able to come to an agreement that's going to benefit each other, man. And the children, okay, will eventually come to understand that, and once they're wed together, that if they're not in love at first, over time, as they get to know each other and grow, okay, that will eventually come. But it's never based upon love first, man. All right. Now I get into the meat of it. Why is demonized in the West? Because for reading this, I want to grab this because Esau, all right, has polluted the minds of everything through his witchcraft, man. All right, his witchcraft, known as his psychology, you know, and different laws and legislation. All right, so Isaiah 29:19. The meek also shall increase their joy in the Lord, and the poor among men shall. Salaki, not this. Salakia. Verse 16. Surely your turning of things upside down shall be esteemed as the potter's clay. For shall the work say of him that made it, he made me not? Or shall the thing framed say of him that framed it, he had no understanding? All right, so Esau has turned everything upside down, which is why we went into that definition of the word modern, because through Esau's modern society, he has flipped everything, all right, against what Yahweh Bashim Yahushua deemed as righteous and good. Okay, so why is demonized in the West? The West's negative view on arranged marriage is tied to historical shifts, individualism, and cultural misunderstanding, and the main part being individualism and monetary reasons, man. Okay, so this is starting with the whole thing of romance. This is the backdrop of where romance comes from. So it says the rise of romantic individualism. Post Enlightenment Europe, which is the 1700s on, shifted towards marrying for love as the ideal. By the 20th century, Hollywood and Western media romanticized the passionate soulmate narrative, making arranged marriages seem cold and loveless. As we know, Hollywood, which is pretty much a witch's coven. All right, Hollywood is pretty much modern day Babylonian witchcraft, man. That's why when you go over there, you enter Hollywood through a Babylonian art. All right, so Esau's witchcraft being pushed on the television and the movie screen, and his media all are controlled by the small hats, by the way. All right, use psychological warfare to pretty much turn the mind of these women into thinking that romance was the true way of how you view with dealing with men. Okay, so as it says, by the 20th century, Hollywood and Western media romanticized the passionate soulmate narrative, making arranged marriages seem cold and loveless. So this is why you have the Disney movies and the Lifetime Network and all these different things that he uses to pollute the mind of the women, to where they don't look at arranged marriages as beneficial, because it takes the 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 option of choice away from them. All right, and that's one thing that these modern day women love is to have a choice. All right, which, as we read earlier, women are not good decision makers, man. Okay, not all, but majority are terrible decision makers, man. You know. So it says colonial and Orientalist views. During the colonial era, European powers portrayed Eastern customs, including arranged marriage, as primitive to justify their their cultural superiority. So going back to the definition of modern, man. All right, of or relating to the present and recent times as opposed to the remote past, because Esau wants to put himself up as God. So he's in a nutshell saying that his ways are superior to the Yahweh Shem Shah's ways, man. Okay, showing you the pride of this devil. All right, and that psychology has worked to trick the mind of the people to where all these people believe that now. They truly believe that the modern way of doing things in today's time, that really is the better way to go, man. All right, which is completely stupid. It says practices in non-Western cultures were often misrepresented or only shown in extreme abusive cases, which is why you have, different things like the Lifetime, network, which always shows men in a horrible abusive light. All right, you have the different Hollywood production teams like Tyler Perry and his minstrel shows, and movies like The Color Purple, which is a beautiful example of that, because when you watch that movie, they show the man, because that was an arranged marriage in that movie, and they show the man as a complete monster, you know. But that's not how things were truly done in the ancient world, man. All right, so that was that witchcraft, which goes back to what we read, man. Surely Isaiah 29:16 again. Surely your turning of things upside down shall be esteemed as the potter's clay. For shall the work say of him that made it, he made me not? Or shall the thing framed say of him that framed it, he had no understanding? Right. So Esau has completely flipped everything upside down, man. All right. It says confusion with forced marriage. The West often conflates arranged marriage, mutual consent with family involvement, with forced marriage, no consent, because they make it seem like that the children were against it. All right. Now it was times to where the daughter could have been apprehensive about it, but due to her obedience to her parents and understanding of what that was being done for, she went along with it. And like I said, when you read earlier, she eventually grew to love her husband, man. But due to the influence of westernization, all right, and their showing of things being misconstrued on their media, this is the mind frame of most modern women when it comes to the topic of arranged marriage. All right, so it says while forced marriage is abusive, healthy arranged marriages include choice. Sometimes the family suggests, but the individual approves. And a lot of the time, when you watch these different these different women from over in the Eastern culture, especially you deal with like those Ishmaelite women. All right, how you have the concept of having multiple wives. They look at the women over here in the West, all right, with disgust, because they see of what they're producing over here, and they actually look down on you, you know, because they'll try to say from what they show over here in the West that they're oppressed, that they're unhappy, but then when you look at their videos of the women in the East, it's the complete opposite, man. And like I said, they laugh at the women over here, man, because they see, all right, the shit show that this way of living has produced for them, man. Okay, hey, you're a bunch of whores. You're lonely. Okay, you're bugged out because of all this. All this social media is destroying their minds. So these women are all on different psych medications and depressed or whatnot. You know, so this wouldn't be the case if these women had had husband and children. All right, which I'm gonna get back to this little taste situation in a minute, but I just want to hit this part first. All right, it says consumer dating culture. The Western dating scene is heavily influenced by choice overload, apps, and social media, leading to the idea that you should try many partners to find one, which that is wicked, because we understand that a when a woman, marries a man, because we understand that marriage is sex. Okay, when a man lies with a woman, all right, because literally the word sex means to cut. When a man enters into a virgin, all right, and pops her cherry and she bleeds, that's him cutting into her, and that becomes his wife. All right, proof of that. Let me see. I forgot exactly where that's at, but is it Jacob or Isaac? I want to say Isaac knew. Oh shit. Uh, Salakia. Let me Google it because I can't remember exactly where it's at. Is it Isaac or Jacob that in it ends? All right, yeah, here we go. So 24:67. All right, so this is Genesis chapter 24 and verse 64. All right, I start here. It says, and Rebekah lifted up her eyes when she saw Isaac. She lifted off the camel. Uh, yeah, yeah. She lifted off the camel, for she had said unto the servant, What man is that? What man is this that walketh in the field to meet us? And the servant had said, It is my master. Therefore she took a veil and covered herself. And the servant told Isaac all things that he had done. And Isaac brought her into his mother Sarah's tent and took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. Isaac was comforted after his mother's death, because Abraham had promised, all right, Rebekah unto Isaac. All right, so this was an arranged marriage, if I can find that. Yep. So going up, this is Genesis chapter 24, and I start at verse 50. Nope, I start at verse 48. Uh, Slakia, verse 47. It says, and I asked her and said, Slakia, let me go up some more, man. Bear with me. I'm just trying to find a good starting point. All right, I start at 42. It says, and I came this day unto the well and said, O Lord, power of my master Abraham, now if now thou do prosper my way which I go, behold, I stand by the well of water, and it shall come to pass that when the virgin cometh forth to draw water, and I say to her, Give me, I pray thee, a little water of thy pitcher to drink, and she say to me, Both drinketh thou, and I will also draw for thy camels. Let the same be the woman whom the Lord have appointed out for my master's son. So, like I said, it was arranged in the spirit for Isaac to be given Rebekah. It says, and before I had done speaking in my heart, behold, Rebekah came forth with her pitcher on her shoulder, and she went down unto the well and drew water. And I said unto her, Let me drink, I pray thee. And she made haste and let down her pitcher from her shoulder and said, Drink, and I will give thy camels drink also. So I drank, and I made the camels drink also. And I asked her and said, Whose daughter art thou? And she said, The daughter of Bethuel, Nahor's son, whom Milcah bare unto him. And I put the earring upon her face and the bracelets upon her hands, and I bowed down my head and worshipped the Lord, and blessed the Lord power of my master Abraham, which had led me in the right way to take my master's brother's daughter unto my son. So this was an arranged marriage. Now, if ye will deal kindly and truly with my master, tell me. If not, tell me that I may turn to the right hand or to the left. Then Laban and Bethuel answered and said, the thing proceeded from the Lord. We cannot speak unto thee bad or good. Behold, Rebekah is before thee. Take her and go, and let her be thy master's son's wife. So the Lord hath spoken. And it came to pass that when Abraham's servant heard their words, he worshipped the Lord, bowing himself to the earth. And the servant brought forth jewels of silver and jewels of gold and raiment, and gave them to Rebekah. He also gave, it's like he gave also to her brother and to her mother precious things, and they did eat and drink, he and the men that were with him, and tarried all night. And they rose up in the morning and he said, send me away unto my master. And her brother and her mother said, let the damsel abide with us a few days, and at the least 10. After that she shall go. And he said unto them, hinder me not, seeing the Lord has purposed my way. Send me away that I may go to my master. And they said, we will call the damsel and require at her mouth. And they called Rebekah and said unto her, wilt thou go with this man? And she said, I will go. And they sent away Rebekah their sister, and her nurse, and Abraham's servant, and his men. And they blessed Rebekah, and said unto her, thou art our sister, be thou the mother of thousands of millions, and let thy seed possess the gate of those which hate them. And Rebekah arose, and her damsels, and they rode upon the camels, and followed the man. And the servant took Rebekah and went his way. Now, what's heavy about this was emphasizing the point I made earlier. Rebekah, all right, agreed to this marriage without even knowing who she was marrying. She never saw Isaac's face before she agreed to this marriage, but she understood because of what her parents had said and the point of why this was being done. She went along with it, man. You know, showing you the mindset of the women back then. And Isaac came from the way of the well Laharooi, for he dwelt in the south country. And Isaac went out to meditate in the field at eventide, and he lifted up his eyes and saw, and behold, the camels were coming. And Rebekah lifted up her eyes, and when she saw Isaac, he lighted off the camel, for she had said unto the servant, what man is this that walketh in the field to meet us? And the servant had said, it is my master. Therefore she took a veil and covered herself. And the servant told Isaac all things that he had done. And Isaac brought her into his mother Sarah's tent, and took Rebekah, and she became his wife. Right. So, hey, Isaac didn't, bow down on one knee and propose to Rebekah. Hey, the marriage was already set up. Okay, the dowry, was paid, and he went into the tent, and he went into Rebekah, and she became his wife, man. All right. It said he took her and he had sex with her, man. All right, and that's how she became his wife. And he loved her, and Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. So that's just one example to show you, all right, of how the arranged marriages worked back then, man. But when you look at today's culture, as it says, the whole thing of choice overload, and these women are bugged out by the whole thought process of options. They believe they got all these men at their beck and call that they can choose from, but these men don't care about these women. These men, all right, look at women as sex objects. They just want to sleep with them, man. The thought of actually being and taking care of these women, that's no longer a thing, because marriage has been polluted due to this hookup culture. Okay, so it says arranged marriage which limits choice to vetted options is seen as restricting freedom, even though it often saves people from years of trial and error heartbreak. And this was, mainly destroyed after what they call the sexual liberation, where you look into that, which is the beginning of what we see leading to all these different situations, like with this chick, Little Tay, man. All right. Now, what brought this about? Really, when I was thinking about this situation, let me put this back on the screen. You know, this is just proof that men have a preference for younger women, but not in the sense of the creep shit like this, because when you look at the age of marriage back then, it wasn't like you see today, man. All right, now I had done a video on this years ago, about 2 years ago, dealing with uh, uh the age of marriage. So I had typed in on Google, what age did Mary marry Joseph? Okay, because it's not really stated in the scriptures, but according to research done by Edomites, all right, we see here, in fact, according to Jewish law and customs of the day, Mary and Joseph probably would have both been young when they married. All right, because what will happen back then? All right, like I said, a girl became a woman when she came on her period. All right, let me grab that real quick just to prove that point. First Corinthians chapter 7 and verse 36. It says, "But if any man think that he behaveth himself uncomely toward his virgin, if she pass the flower of her age and need so require, let him do what he will, he sinneth not, let them marry." Right. So meaning that once a woman, had her cycle, she was now able to, have children, which officially made her a woman. All right. But in this society, things are so bugged out to where you literally have the question being posed, what is a woman? You know, people don't, because you have these demons, all right, these so-called men, all right, these fucking demonic men that are changing their sex into women. But a woman is somebody that can bear children. All right, there's no getting around that shit, man. You know, but the point being, if the girl has her period, she now has the ability to have sex, which means she's hit puberty. Now the hormones are kicking in to where she wants to have sex, and this is just proof of that, because the fact that she's this little bitch is 18. So I can get this off the screen. The moment she turned 18, well, she was having this thought process before she turned 18, but the point being, when she turned 18, her first thing was to go and exploit her sexuality unto men. Now you have in certain settings. Okay, now my internet's tripping. It's all good. You know, in certain settings, you've had cases of women auctioning off their virginity because they know the amount of power that holds over men. Okay, now, like I said, we're not out here promoting that in the essence of grabbing up, young girls, man. All right, like that narrative that a lot of these wicked, you know, false accusers are putting on Great Millstone. All right, we don't condone men dealing with, little girls, man. All right, that's off in this society, man. Okay, so if we find out that any member in GMS is doing that, man, hey, they're getting the boot, man, because we understand that stigma isn't looked upon in the right light in this society. All right, hey, Esau will put you under the jail. All right, if you're simple enough to do some shit like that, man. Okay, so we don't condone that at all, and as the scriptures say, First Corinthians 6 and 12, all things are lawful unto me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be brought under the power of any, because we understand that's not expedient right now, man. Hey, we are to follow the laws of the land, and we understand that Esau, all right, he will lock your ass up if you were doing that. Look what happened to Brother Polite, man, with his nasty ass, man. All right, as well as many others, R. Kelly and these other niggas, and Edomites, people in general that's doing this shit, man. All right, that's wicked in this society, man. But in the kingdom of heaven, it's gonna go back to those old ways, because, like I said, the marriageable age of consent in the ancient world, it was lower than 18. Hey, when the moment that a girl has her period, she's ready to have sex, man. Now, not saying that just because that happened, men were just sleeping with women. No, all right. hey, when you look at the customs was this, all right. When that woman was married off to the man, all right, he might not deal with her for some years because now she has to be groomed into knowing the mindset of what her husband likes. So she will spend, years being groomed by a older woman or a eunuch that works for that man. And a eunuch was a man that had his rod cut off, man. All right, but they would help groom that girl to pretty much get ready for her husband, man. You know. So as we said, man, that's not being practiced in today's time, but in certain Middle East countries, this is a thing, man. All right. So I just wanted to play this little bit of what I have right here. So, because when she married Joseph, because when you go into marriage, marriage is sex. All right. Let's get that out the way first and foremost, man. All right. So when you hear about marriages, that means that they had sex. All right. And I'm gonna prove that in a minute. All right. So dealing with this, it says, I typed in Google, what age did Joseph marry? Marry Joseph? All right. So as soon as that came up, it says, in fact, according to Jewish law and customs of the day, Mary and Joseph probably would have both been young when they married. Girls were usually engaged sometime between the ages of 12 and 15 and would be married sometime thereafter at 15 or 16, and boys would have been 19 or 20, all right? So, meaning that the father would give his daughters away to that man at a young age, all right? And that's something that you emotional niggas refuse to acknowledge at this point. And the thing about it, what you have to also, bring clarity to, is that we're not out here seeking to get with 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old girls, man. All right. Just because the law says that is lawful, that does not mean we're out here doing it. When we bring this out, we're just telling you of what the law says, man. All right. How things were done in the ancient world, man. Like a good example of that you have with King David. All right, when he was about to die. All right, let's get that. Um, this is Second Kings. No, First Kings. It might be First Kings. Yeah, no, it's First Kings. All right, it says First Kings 1:1. Now King David was old and stricken in years, and they covered him with clothes, but he got no heat. Wherefore his servants said unto him, let there be sought for my lord the king a young virgin, a young girl. All right. It said, and let her stand before the king, and let him cherish her, and let her die. And let her lie in thy bosom, that my lord the king may get heat. All right. So to see if King David, was, still, still good. All right. They said they was gonna bring him a young woman, all right, a young virgin, okay, to see if he could still get up, man, okay. And as we know, she couldn't get him right, all right. It says, so they sought for a fair damsel throughout the coast of Israel, all the coast of Israel, and found Abishag, a Shunammite, and brought her to the king. And the damsel was very fair, which means she was fine, and cherished the king, and ministered to him, but the king knew her not, because he couldn't get up. It was let them know that King David was about to be, back in the spirit world, man. He's about to give up the spirit soon. Okay, so just proving the point that, hey, man, we dealt with younger women back then, but like I said, it wasn't all right in the sense of that weirdo shit like you see with this situation with this little Tay and bad baby bitch, man. All these niggas, thirsting over, and trying to prey on these young girls, man. Hey, that's not the same thing, okay? But in today's time, that shit is demonized, man. Okay, so I have put this the second part in the chat GPT. It says understanding that according to 2 Corinthians 7:36, because as I read that earlier. Well, I thought I did. I may have not. Well, I put second, but it corrected me, so it says first. Yeah. So if any man think that he behaveth himself uncomely toward his virgin, if she pass the flower of her age and needs so require, let him do what he will. He sent him not. Let them marry. So if a man, if he had his wife, okay, which if she was of the age of 12, 15, 16, whatever, if he, if she had her period, he wasn't sinning if he dealt with her, man. And that's as crazy as that sounds, man. We understand that it is what it is, man. That's the law. That's the way that things were done. This is why I said you have to reform your mind, all right, into knowing today's way of thinking isn't conducive to back then. All right, real quick, just to continue on with that point, man. Romans 12 and 2. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. I should have brought this out at the beginning of the lesson, but it's the spirit. It says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of Yahweh by Shem Yahushua. So we understand that you have to change your way of thinking if you're going to be able to understand these scriptures in their entirety, man. All right. So as it says, understanding that according to 1 Corinthians 7:36, a girl becomes a woman when she starts her cycle. Marriages oftentimes happen back when the girls were young, and if that was still being practiced today, how would that benefit women today? And why are men demonized for their preference in younger women? And why is it a disgrace for a woman to be single, and I meant to say childless, when she gets older? All right, but the point being that men are demonized for uh, uh, they're demonized for having a preference towards younger women. All right, a man is more attracted to having a younger woman, and that's just nature. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, there's nothing wrong with dealing with an older woman too. But the majority of men are just naturally more attractive to a younger woman, and that's just due to biology. Okay, because we understand, as it says, we're gonna get into is reasons of why biologically that is like that, man. All right. It says this is a layered question because it involves biblical context, ancient cultural norms, biology, modern law, and Western moral shifts. I'll break it into three sections: the benefits in ancient society, why men are demonized today for preferring younger women, and why singleness in older men is seen as a disgrace historically. All right. So, as we put, if ancient marriage age was still practiced today, as we just showed earlier, play it one more time. Well, I'll show it one more time. They were usually around the ages from 12, 15, 16. And I had actually later on in this lesson another thing that showed that as well. All right, so it says, "Don't you know what? Don't know what you've heard, and I don't care what they practice or believe in today's world. In biblical times, they married around 12 years, mainly for the girls, give or take a year. When girls would have their period, it was time for marriage. According to God, you shall only have children if you're married. Why would God give you the ability to have children, but at the same time, He does not want you to exercise the ability that He gave you? So, biblically speaking, you can have sex as soon as you get your period, so you can have children if you desire. But you must remember that sex in the Bible means that you are marrying the other person. Otherwise, you are fornicating. You can't just sleep with a person and leave them like an empty soda until you find the one you want. You find somebody, you make sure that they are good for you, usually the job of the parents, and then if they can support you spiritually, financially, and are truly wise and godly, then you can marry, aka intimacy with them. So this is just somebody that was echoing what I've been going into with this entire lesson, man, showing you that this is not an uncommon thought, but it's just uncommon over here in today's world because the witchcraft that Esau Edom has done to the people. All right, now It says benefits if ancient marriage aids were still practiced. In biblical and ancient Near Eastern societies, marriage shortly after puberty was normal, and it wasn't about exploitation. It was tied to survival, family honor, and generational security. So it's not like how it's being talked about today as is men preying on young girls. No, it was done strategically, all right, for the benefit of the girl and for the families involved, man. All right. It says 2 Corinthians 7:36. Speak about giving a virgin in marriage when she is past the flower of her age, which referred to her being of childbearing maturity. And this is of a truth because I've seen it. And I'm pretty sure all you have seen. My first time seeing a girl get pregnant, I was in middle school, man. So that was like seventh, eighth grade. I had to be early teens, man. So that go to show you that women, and in today's time, it's even earlier, man. These women are fucking at early ages now, man. So showing you once that period comes, the hormones start rising, and hey, they want sex, man. So that's showing you they need to be given into marriage, man. 'Cause this will cut down on a lot of illegitimate children. All right, well, they'll call it today illegitimate children, but broken households and families, all that. This will take care of all that, man. The Lord has a covering for all different scenarios that we see taking place in today's time, man. Which is why Jeremiah 6:16 needs to be applied, man. Okay, it says biological and reproductive health. A woman's fertility window is highest in her teens and early 20s, with far fewer complications in pregnancy compared to late 30s or 40s. Marrying young meant women could have children during their healthiest years, reducing the risk of infertility or birth defects. Families could have more children to help with labor, land, and legacy because having a family, it pretty much will help broaden that man's legacy, man. Because the children, as I said, they were used for for help, and the women, the wives, all right, whether you had one wife or multiple wives, they were used to help add to that man, okay? Because polygamy, all right, is righteous, all right, contrary to what you demons say, man. A man is allowed more than one woman, okay, and it's practiced in nature. It shows you in nature that there's no such thing as monogamy. Goes back to what we read earlier about that romanticism that goes back to Rome, all right. But the point being, when a woman was ready to have kids, man, she needs to be married off, man. All right, and that also gives a woman purpose, man. Children give women purposes, man. Okay, this is why you see these women doing all types of bugged out shit because they have no purpose. Esau tricked them into thinking that they need a career, to put their womanly duties to the back because that's the oppression of the patriarchy. But no, that's the order that the Lord gave you to give your life purpose. This is why a lot of you women are miserable, man. All right, you're 30, 40 and up with no children, man. Hey, you have pretty much failed yourself, man. All right, because you listen to the lies of the serpent. Continuing on, economic and social security. Women were fully under their father's protection until marriage, then under the husband's provision. So a woman was always, under a man's, protection. Okay. So it says marrying young secured lifelong protection in a society where women rarely owned property and had independent income. Dowry and marriage alliances strengthen a woman's future rather than leaving her vulnerable. It says character formation in a stable environment. Instead of forming adult habits in a single lifestyle, young wives were trained in the skills of running a household early, often mentored by older women, whether it was their mother, maid servants, sister wives, whatever the case may be. But she was being molded to become a wife. They had less exposure, and it puts here Titus 2:3 and 5, which I'll get that in a minute. It said they had less exposure to promiscuity and destructive dating cycles, protecting emotional and physical health. And this is why a lot of relationships in today's time, they fail because a lot of these women, come into these relationships with heavy baggage from failed relationships and emotional scars, man. All right, so these men, all right, and we get these women and they're they're damaged, they're damaged goods, man. You know, so you got to find the best ones that you can deal with, but these women they're through, and if the Lord has a sister with a man of the Lord, man, and consider yourself blessed, man, because hey, that the Lord led you to that man. All right, with even with all the problems that we both got, because both the man and the woman were both damaged, man. You know, but the Spirit, brought us together. Okay, so it mentioned that Titus, so let's grab that, and then I had another precept on top of that. All right, matter of fact, let me get that one first. All right, this is Sirach or Ecclesiasticus in the Apocrypha, chapter 7, verse 24, because the scriptures give instructions on, how to raise your children, man. All right, specifically, it's for sons and daughters, man. All right, so this is dealing with the daughters. It says, "Hast thou daughters, have care for their body, and show not thyself cheerful towards them." The point: marry thy daughter, and so shalt thou have performed a weightful matter, or it's like a weighty matter, but give her to a man of understanding. This is why we say, man, it's ain't no just just when we go dealing with the arranged marriage, man. Okay, it's not no light thing, man. All right, we give our daughters to a man that we understood could take care of her, man. You know, because like I said, given to a man of good reputation, you know, that you knew could take care of her. Okay, because you understand that your daughter still carried your name, so you didn't want your name to be shamed because you had a wicked daughter, man. Okay, so while she was still being groomed by the women that was teaching her, man, she had to be taught right, which leads us to that Titus chapter 2 verse 3. It says, "The aged women likewise, that they be in behavior and become of holiness, not false accusers, not giving to much wine, teachers of good things, that they may teach the young women to be sober, to love their husbands, to love their children, to be discreet, chaste, keepers at home, good, obedient to their husbands, that the word of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushua be not blasphemed." And that's completely thrown out the way in today's time, man. And these women do the complete opposite. All right, and the matriarchy of the family, the big mama, the mom, the aunties, older sisters, whatnot, they tell the young women in their family to be whores. As we read earlier, to go try out, like you had Gabrielle Union write that book, pretty much telling young women just to go, try different size rods until she, feels comfortable to settle down, man. That's wicked, man. All right, so let me get that real quick. All right, because this society has completely fucked up how things were supposed to be, man. All right, this is Ezekiel 16 and 44. "Behold, every one that useth proverbs shall use this proverb against thee, saying, as is the mother, so is her daughter." Right, so they passed this wicked mindset down, which is why you see generations of straight whores and polluted women. All right, so going back, so it says, "Why men are demonized for preferring younger women today." Now, I had a few videos I wanted to show dealing with that, because this is a major thing that's being talked about in today's society. Okay.
Older men don't want older women. I have a hard time believing that older men genuinely see younger women and think, this is my romantic equal. Yeah. Like, I don't think you think that about a 22-year-old, sir. Winston, Charles. I agree. Think back if you can. Don't say anything out loud. Just think about what you were doing at 21. Don't say nothing. See, look at your face. Look at your face. You see what I'm talking about? You don't know yourself enough. You're naive. You're immature. You have no business dating somebody who can buy houses and such.
We'll show you that's a stupid, we're going into, as I said, wait, she's deprived of wisdom. Because when you looked at how things were done, a young women were given to older men because that older man had stability, okay, and he was able to provide for her. Older women, they talk shit about that because a lot of these older women, they can't get the same men that they were able to get when they were younger, man. Which is really, these talking points come from a state of jealousy, man. As this video is gonna show.
I just seen this older lady who's a psychologist put herself through all the mental gymnastics, man, to make men of her age group look very weird and creepy for dating younger women. The whole time I'm looking at them, it's like, y'all just mad that y'all can't do it. Because unlike men, women are not visual creatures, men are, right? They see, they respond. Females are not like that, and obviously in those relationships, it's mutually beneficial to the men and the younger woman, right? The younger woman is looking for certain experiences that older man can provide, and that older man is looking for her beauty. I mean, it's a very superficial, materialistic relationship, right? But for whatever reason, they always want to shame the older man, and the reason why is because they know and understand that is a man that they themselves can no longer get. But when they were younger, right, and they had access, they didn't care. It wasn't weird. I think it's hilarious, ladies. Chill out, ladies, man. Mind your business, man. If the older dude is doing that, he's doing it with a consensual adult who's also getting something out of the relationship. They both know it's happening, and they both pretending that it's not. But what do y'all think, man? Let me know your thoughts, man. Do you agree with her, man? Or they just hate us because they ain't us?
All right, now looking at it from a logical standpoint, it says why men are demonized for preferring younger women. In ancient society, the preference for younger women was considered natural and wise for family building. In the modern West, several factors have reversed this perception because, like we said, Esau has turned everything upside down, so the people's mindsets are polluted, okay? Which is why, let me grab this real quick. You got to come out of this place, man, okay? And when it says come out, mentally, physically, mentally and spiritually. Micah 2:10, arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest, because it is polluted. It shall destroy you even with a sore destruction. So what Micah is saying is telling our people, you need to leave this way of thinking that we have been brought up in America, man, because it's not conducive to long-term living, all right? And as we see, when you see the whole concept of family building and marriage, it isn't suited for long-term, situation, man. It's you're in the here and now. It's for pleasure. It's for all the wrong reasons, which is why you see a lot of relationships and homes being broken and destroyed. So, reading these points, it says cultural shift from family to individualism. Ancient society saw marriage as a family building covenant, so younger wives made sense for longevity and childbearing. Today's society treats relationships more as companionships of equals, and fertility isn't prioritized in the same way, which is why you have, the red pill movement, pretty much exposed the whole, timeline of women in their prime, and when they get once they get out their prime, which their prime is like from like 18 to like in their 20 somethings, but once they hit 30 and up, you have a term called the wall, which the woman's body begins to break down. All right, her eggs dry up. All right, and if she is able to conceive, there's a lot of different health complications that affect her and the baby, but it's case by case situations. Okay, but ultimately it's all up to the Lord, but it's more ideal, all right, for women in their younger years, all right, to do the majority of the childbearing, but you have examples in the scriptures, such as Sarah, who was up in age, but we understand that it's all the Lord. The Lord is the one that blesses women with children, okay, because that was actually a thing in the ancient world that is long forgotten. All right, women would pray to the Most High for children, but in today's time, women pray that they don't get pregnant. If they do, they kill the baby, man. So just showing you how backwards this shit is. But continuing on, feminist and political framing. 20th century feminism often framed male attraction to younger women as predatory or as an attempt to control women with less life experience. Media narrative lead to highlight extreme abusive cases, sharing the public opinion towards suspicion, which is why you have situations like this shit with this OnlyFans shit showing you that this comes from deprived men, all right, who are not right mentally, okay, and they're sex deprived, man, all right. So this is why she was able to do some shit like this.
This is something that's been going on now for years on OnlyFans. Let me pull it up. Little Tay, there it is. Little Tay, bro. Oh my. Man, what the fuck? All right. So already, yes, Jesus, man. So Little Tay announced that she made $1 million on her OnlyFans within 3 hours. Youngest girl on OnlyFans, freshly 18. So anyway, this is her tweet. She posted this yesterday. And this is actually, well, this is originally what she said. She said, freshly 18, please don't tell my mom. My 18th birthday exclusives shot at 12:01 a.m. Only available for 24 hours. Come and see me in my birthday suits. Replying to all DMs.
And that's all we gotta see on that. This is why arranged marriages, all right, need to be put back into society because it keeps women from going down that path, man. All right, because these devils they prey upon the naivete of these women, man. You know, this is why sex trafficking and the adult industry are one of the two of the biggest snares and traps for a lot of these women, especially the Israelite women. Okay, so it says feminist and political framing. 20th century feminism often framed male attraction to younger women as predatory or as an attempt to control women with less life experience. Media narratives tend to highlight extreme or abusive cases, shaping public opinion towards suspicion. Legal and moral reframing in the West, the age of consent has been raised far above puberty to protect minors from exploitation, making historical norms socially unacceptable. Even when discussing women of legal age, 18 to 22, men are sometimes shamed because the attention is interpreted through a power imbalance lens, because that shows you that, number one, due to the social programming that has happened through things like porn, a lot of men their mind frame is skewed when it comes to how to deal with women. So most of them don't know how to do that, as well as they don't see women as nothing more than sex objects, man. All right, so that's few of the reasons on why women are they talk down on these situations, but at the same time, it's also due to the fact that they don't want to be controlled, because that goes back to that feminism narrative, man. All right, as well as this part right here, threat to older women's market value. Many older women see younger female competition as a threat in the dating pool and frames men's preference as immature to preserve their own desirability. This fuels social stigma around men openly preferring youth. All right, and that's because, as you heard the Jake say, man, nobody wants an older woman. All right, that's really what it comes down to. And you heard the comedians joke about that, but at the end of the day, man, the majority of these men prefer younger women because of their beauty, all right, for their reproductive value, all right, and they come with less baggage, man, and that's just what it is, man. That's the truth of the matter, all right. Taking all emotions out of the picture, that's just what it is, man. You know, so understanding that this is why the Lord, did these different things, man. What I got here, all right. So Esau set up these different, these different things, all right, for his own use, which I'm not even gonna bring it out here at this point, you know. So I just wanted to, talk about that, all right. Let me get this last point. I want to get that read through that real quick. All right. So it says, why it was a disgrace for an older woman to be single and childless. You know, it says in biblical world, a woman's highest honor was tied to marriage and motherhood. Being both single and childless as she aged was considered a misfortune and even a public shame. Legacy and lineage was everything. Ancient Israelite society was tribal and family centered. Your name, land, and inheritance passed through children. Psalms 127, 3 through 5 calls children a heritage from the Lord and compares them to arrows in a warrior's quiver, having many as a sign of strength and blessing. But in today's time, all right, children are looked at as a burden because they have been weaponized against men and women. All right, specifically against the man, because the women can use the children as weapons against the man as well. But children are meant to be a blessing. Okay, to be childless meant the family line risked disappearing, economic and social vulnerability. Without children, a woman had no heir to care for her in old age. And in agrarian society, children were also labor force, helping on the farm, in the household, and in business. With no husband and no children, a woman often relied on charity, making her dependent on others, hence the strong biblical emphasis on protecting widows and orphans, seen as a sign of disfavor. In many cases, childlessness was interpreted as a possible curse or withholding of blessing, though the Bible often shows righteous barren women later blessed, Sarah, Hannah, Elizabeth as examples. Culturally, it is assumed that Yahweh Bashem Yahushua favored fruitful women, so infertility carried spiritual stigma. All right, it was a disgrace to be childless back in the ancient world, and a loss of social honor. In ancient times, the measure of a virtuous woman, as it says in Proverbs 31, included raising godly children and contributing to her family's reputation and prosperity. Being older without children was not just a private matter, it meant you hadn't fulfilled what society saw as your God-given right. Because, as a woman, man, you're supposed to bring forth children to help forge your husband's legacy, his namesake, man. All right, but like I said, in today's time, this society is backwards. So this is why Yahweh Shem Yahushua has to destroy this place, man. So it went a little longer than I intended to, but a lot of information I wanted to get out through the spirit. So I pray it was edifying. So with that, I'm gonna close this out, giving all honor, praise, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rachakodash. Double honors to my apostles and elders of Great Millstone that taught me this truth and that rule well. And peace and salutation to the elect. Until next time, shalom.